After I failed to win over the male lead, the system urged me to terminate the mission. So, I pulled out my oxygen tube in the ICU. By the time the male lead rushed to the hospital, all he saw was my cold, lifeless body. One of his subordinates asked how to handle it. He paused slightly, then scoffed. Bury her. What else can you do? Later, he kept calling my now disconnected number, day and night. Stop playing, okay? Just come back. I'll give you everything, myself, my love, all of it. When the system alert chimed again, I was still lying in the ICU, every inch of my body pierced by IVs and tubes. Severe liver and kidney failure. Estimated survival, less than 10 days. Did I really fail? Is this the end? The system's cold mechanical voice rang out. Based on the current plot trajectory, your mission fails the moment the male lead marries the original female lead. Immediate termination of this novel world is advised. Please return to the main storyline. I closed my eyes, too exhausted to respond. Can you give me just a few more days? Maybe, just maybe, there's still a chance. But deep down, I knew there was no such thing as a miracle. A week ago, Dennis Brown had already proposed to his beloved, White Moonlight, female lead. Dennis never loved me. He never had. Even though I stood by him when he had nothing, even when we roamed the streets together. When he got beaten by a gang of punks, I charged at them with a bottle, smashing it over their heads. The thugs were frightened off by my ferocity, cursing me as a lunatic. That night, I was covered in blood. He trembled as he carried me to the hospital. I'm sorry, Sarah. One day, when I make it big, I'll give you the best life. For those words, I was willing to become the executioner in his shadow. Every dirty deed, I handled it, never letting a speck of it taint him. And later, when he rose to the top, I worked just as hard to become the kind of woman worthy of him. But in his eyes, I had become vain, materialistic, vicious. He couldn't stand the blood on my hands. He said, Sarah White, I've realized, I still prefer women who are pure. Just look at you. Covered in scars. Besides your name, what part of you even resembles a woman? I snapped back to reality. My head throbbed. I was supposed to be a strategy executor. Dennis was the male lead of a mafia novel. 3 years ago, I was sent into this world. Originally, my role was to fall hopelessly in love with Dennis at first sight, an unrequited, pitiful second female lead who, in the finale, would sacrifice herself by taking a bullet for the hero and heroine. The original second female lead had been dissatisfied with that ending. After her death, her will to change her fate was so strong, it disrupted other storylines. So, I was sent in as a system corrector, to rewrite the narrative. But something went wrong. A bug occurred. I lost my memory and inherited every emotion of the original Sarah, including her overwhelming love for Dennis. To fully empathize with the original character is a terrifying thing for a strategy executor. Her unwillingness, her tidal wave of love, haunted me at every moment. 3 years by his side. 3 years of love given in vain. It wasn't until the story neared its finale that I finally began to detach myself. After piecing everything together, I took a breath and calmly said to the system, open the item store. I want to purchase a dose of adrenaline. The system hesitated. You're insane. The strategy mission has already failed. I strongly advise you to exit immediately. If the violation is discovered, you'll suffer a 100-fold increase in pain. I've made up my mind. Purchase it. The system went silent. A second later, a syringe of adrenaline appeared in my hand. This dose could return my broken body to peak physical condition, but only for 2 hours. 2 hours was enough. Long ago, before I fully awakened to my self-awareness, I had discovered the system and used its store to buy adrenaline again and again. That was how a woman like Sarah had been able to save the male lead multiple times from danger, becoming the feared queen of the underworld, the lady boss in the shadows. And in that instant, my broken body was completely restored. I calmly changed my clothes and walked out of the hospital room. The nurses and doctors were stunned. But there was nothing strange about it. This was a novel world. Who needed logic? If I remembered correctly, today was the wedding day of Dennis and his white moonlight, Phoebe. He had prepared a sea of flowers for her, planning to place a diamond ring on her finger beneath the city's brightest tower, the Pearl. And me? Just last month, to help him dodge a rival's assassination attempt, I was imprisoned and tortured in a water dungeon for half a month. My skin had been soaked until it rotted and peeled. I only escaped because one of my little brothers came to save me. And where was Dennis during all that? Oh, he was in a 5-star French restaurant, patiently teaching his pure little bride how to use a knife and fork. I crashed their wedding right as they were about to exchange vows. Wearing a leather jacket and biker boots, I strutted into the venue and sat at the head table, crossing my legs without a care. Dennis looked handsome today, his tailored suit made him appear every bit the elite gentleman. Standing beside him was a delicate figure, his white moonlight, Phoebe. Dennis narrowed his eyes. With one arm around her waist, he spoke in a cold tone, "What are you doing here? Didn't my people say you were hospitalized?" So he knew. He knew I was lying half dead in the ICU, clinging to life. And yet, he still went ahead with the wedding. Never once did he consider seeing me. A dull ache pulsed in my chest. It wasn't mine, it came from the original Sarah. Her empathy still lingered. I forced a smile and said, "Your wedding, Dennis? Even if I died, I'd drag my corpse here to attend, wouldn't I?" Dennis said nothing. The cold line of his lips made it clear I wasn't welcome. Phoebe, on the other hand, tugged gently on his sleeve. She stepped forward, looping her arm through mine with faux affection. "Sister Sarah, we're just thrilled you came to our wedding. We were planning to visit you at the hospital, but Dennis said today is an auspicious date, so we thought we'd finish the ceremony first, then see you. After all, getting your blessing would make me the happiest bride in the world." Phoebe playfully raised her brows, trying to look cute. I gagged in disgust, then mimicked her tone. "Really? An auspicious day, huh? Can't waste that. But do you know what today really is? Let me tell you, today's the day Dennis got his first investment. It's also his birthday. And it's the day I got my head bashed in while fighting to win him a territory." Phoebe's face instantly went pale. Is that true?" Dennis's expression turned colder. Ignoring the guests, he grabbed me by the arm and yanked me away from the table. "Sarah White, what the hell are you doing? Don't bring your gangster ways here. You're scaring Phoebe, she doesn't understand any of this." I smiled at him, then reached out and grabbed his tie. "All thanks to years of tempering. You think I'm dirty? You're right. After everything I've done for you, I'll never be clean again." Dennis stared at me. His thin lips curled into a mocking sneer. "Of course. You really are that kind of woman, completely different from Phoebe. What are you trying to pull now? Another little trick to morally blackmail me? Hoping I'll feel guilty enough to choose you? Sarah, is that all you've got left?" "I never asked you to do anything for me," I replied. "Don't waste the last shred of guilt you think you feel." I let out a laugh, sharp, bitter. "Guilt? Has he ever even felt such a thing for me?" I wanted to mock him again, but the words that came out were laced with a painful sting. "Then from now on, I won't do anything for you. Not anymore. You don't need me now anyway, right?" If not for the things I had done these past few years, how would he have secured his seat as chairman of the group? How would he be worth billions, with that naive little wife by his side? I laughed until tears welled up in my eyes. The emotions of the original Sarah were still too strong. She was thrashing inside me, screaming with rage and unwillingness. And with the system's drug effects fading fast, my whole body felt like it was being gnawed on by 1,000 fire ants. My vision blurred. My grip on his tie loosened. Dennis seemed to notice something was wrong. His brows creased slightly as he instinctively reached out to steady me. But when I looked at him in surprise, he seemed to realize something too, and quickly jerked his hand away. "Sarah, if not for the years we've known each other, you wouldn't even be allowed to stand here. You're sick? Then go get treated. Don't show up again to bother Phoebe. There won't be a next time. Get her out of here. I don't want to see her again until this wedding is over." At his command, several men in suits rose from their seats and approached. I swept my gaze across the room. Familiar faces, every one of them. They were all my people, brothers I had trained myself, now stationed in the company's most critical positions. They had once been Dennis's most loyal followers, thanks to me. "Ah, so that's how it is? He's cut me off completely. No wonder he's so confident now." I let out a dry laugh, leaning against the table to support my unsteady body, my limbs already going cold. Dennis clearly had no intention of saying more. The group surged forward, as if ready to drag me out of the venue. If this were my prime, these men wouldn't even make me blink. But sadly, I was running out of time. The adrenaline would wear off any moment now. And once it did, I'd collapse like a dog on the floor. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for one final gamble. I stared at him, desperation in my voice. "Dennis, I'm giving you one last chance. Call off the wedding. If you don't, I'll die. Are you choosing Phoebe, or me?" I already knew the answer. But I couldn't help asking. It wasn't just for Sarah, it was for me too. In the face of death, would he choose happiness, or the woman who gave everything for him? It wasn't that I refused to accept the failure of this strategy mission. If I failed, my soul would simply detach from this world and return to the main storyline system. There would be punishment, but nothing fatal. But if I failed, Sarah, the original host, would disappear completely. She would be annihilated. No reincarnation. No return. We had shared this body for so long, her feelings and mine had long since fused into one. She was me. I was her. And I couldn't bear to see her end this way. Why should she disappear like that? Why should she pay this price after everything she gave? Why do the male and female leads get a happy ending, while the second female lead is erased from existence? It's not fair. Phoebe, who had always acted like harmless scenery, finally realized something was wrong. Clutching the hem of her wedding dress, she stepped forward cautiously to shield Dennis. Sister Sarah, I didn't know you hated the idea of me and Dennis getting married this much. If you truly love him, I can back out. But please don't use death to threaten us, okay? I know you've shared deep feelings, but love isn't about who came first. Using your life like this, it's really not worth it. Her voice trembled. She looked like a fragile white flower about to collapse, her face pale and filled with pitiful conflict. A true female lead, her every plea looked pure and heartbreaking. Threaten them with death? If they got married, I really would die. No question. I let out a cold laugh and stared at Phoebe. Suppressing the bitter taste rising in my throat, I rasped, fine. Then back out, and I'll live. Phoebe's face turned ghostly white. He'll never love a woman like you. Oh? And you know that how? Are you a worm in his stomach? Or a cavity in his teeth? What makes you think you know him so well? Dennis rushed to hold her up. Irritated, he pulled out a cigarette and lit it with shaky hands. Sarah, haven't you made enough of a scene? You think this is going to scare me? If you want to die, then go to hell right now. I'll make sure your body gets buried. I let out a pale, broken smile. My stomach churned. It felt like my organs were being crushed into pulp. You heard that, didn't you, Sarah? It's time to give up. For someone like him, what more are you clinging to? That was a message to the original Sarah. And to myself. The pain tore through me, part illness, part the fading effects of adrenaline. I didn't know how I'd even survived these past years. A mouthful of metallic blood rose to my lips. My palms were already soaked red. Time was up. Leave? Why should I leave? Even if I had to drag him by force, I'd make sure Dennis didn't get married today. I lunged forward and grabbed him. With strength far beyond normal, I made the 6-foot man completely unable to resist. He tried to pin me, but I had taught him every move he knew. How could he possibly beat me? I quickly injected a dose of tranquilizer into his neck. His eyes widened in shock. His body went limp in an instant. I dragged him out of the wedding hall by brute force, ignoring Phoebe's panicked shrieks behind me. No one dared stop me. The glass elevator plummeted from the top floor. I tossed Dennis into the passenger seat and got behind the wheel. He growled beside me, furious but paralyzed. Sarah. You're insane. I've always been insane. Surprised you're just now realizing it? Before, because I carried the original Sarah's memories, I had always tiptoed around him, obedient, restrained, never using my ruthless ways on him. But now? I was dying. And I no longer cared about what made him happy. Only mine mattered. 10 minutes earlier. I summoned the system. Exchange 10 kilograms of TNT for me. I'll blow this bastard up before I go. The system rejected me coldly. Sorry, host. That exceeds permissions. Request denied. Please follow the main storyline, or you will be punished. Punishment my ass. Just give it to me. The system ignored me. Fine. If I can't talk my way through, I'll use force. Then give me 1 dose of high-grade anesthetic, the kind that paralyzes everything except the mouth. The roar of the sports car drowned out everything else. Dennis had struggled in the seat for a while, but when he realized he couldn't move a muscle, he finally calmed down. As the speedometer climbed higher and higher, his tone cooled. You really want to die? Wiping the blood from the corner of my mouth, I pressed harder on the gas pedal. Yeah, I want to die. And since I'm going anyway, why not take you with me? Everything you have, I gave it to you. Now I'm taking it all back. You don't mind, do you? He was silent for a long time before suddenly turning to me with a sneer. You're not Sarah. Those 3 words made my foot freeze over the accelerator. I turned my head toward him. Why would you say that? He let out a soft chuckle. The real Sarah wouldn't let me die. So, who are you? What a load of crap. He wasn't wrong. I couldn't kill Dennis. The original Sarah wouldn't let me. And the system wouldn't allow me to destroy the male lead either. Dennis had always been good at reading people. Even after all these years, he hadn't lost that talent. I eased off the accelerator. The car began to slow. I sat quietly for a moment. Dennis, do you remember the first time we met? His narrow eyes narrowed even further as he stared at me. The first time? You mean when you got into a fight at a corner store over a pack of cigarettes and ended up with your head cracked open? That was the original Sarah's first meeting with Dennis. But it wasn't mine. I let out a scornful laugh and began to speak, more to myself than to him. The first time I saw you, I was racing a gang boss for turf. Whoever won would rule that street. You were covered in bruises and stopped me cold, yelling at me like I was insane. You asked me if I had a death wish. Said you'd never seen a woman fight for territory like that. I remember, I kicked you aside and told you to mind your own damn business. But then you climbed on the back of my motorcycle and wrapped your arms around my waist. You said, if you're gonna die, take me with you. Dennis didn't respond. After a long pause, he murmured, that street race, you did it to win turf for me. That's why you bet your life. Yeah. Weird, right? Why would a woman who'd only met you a few times go that far? You liked me even then, he asked, with a bitter, mocking laugh. Then you liked the wrong guy. I was just using you. That race was a means to an end, to tame you. I saw your skills. I saw your recklessness. And I knew I could use you. Dennis was always the more ruthless one between us. He tore open the one shred of belief I had clung to, and then poured salt into the wound. If I hadn't been a strategy executor, if I hadn't recovered my memories, would I be breaking from heartbreak right now? Well, turns out I still was. So all that warmth, all those memories, were just my own delusions? The punishment from the system came without warning. The side effects of the adrenaline hit me hard, draining every ounce of strength from my limbs. My hand slid off the steering wheel. My head tilted to the side as I looked weakly at Dennis. So this is the ending, Dennis. I'm worthless now. So I should just die, right? Blood gushed from my mouth, soaking the seat, soaking the front of Dennis's pristine white shirt. That's when I noticed the small pin on his collar. A peach-shaped brooch. I'd picked it out for him. It was a gift for his first big contract negotiation, his first time wearing a proper suit. A wedding accessory, gifted by me. What a joke. I let out a bitter laugh, then raised my trembling hand and yanked it off. You don't deserve this. And then, for the first time, I saw something other than disdain on Dennis's face. Fear. Terror. The car spun wildly out of control. Flames burst in front of my eyes, filling my pupils with a blinding orange. I vaguely saw Dennis thrown from the vehicle. By some absurd twist of fate, an ambulance happened to pass by. He was quickly rescued. And me? I was crushed beneath the wreckage. Of course. The male lead always survives. Lucky. Blessed. Untouchable. Even now. The system prompt rang in my ears again. Host has deviated from main storyline. Punishment delivered. Preparing for forced extraction. Warning, forced extraction commencing. For some reason, I thought I heard the system sigh. The cold mechanical male voice sounded like it carried a hint of something else. And then I blacked out. When I woke again, I was floating in a hospital room. My body lay below me, battered and broken. Tubes snaked in and out of every limb. My face was charred and burnt, almost unrecognizable. The heart monitor still showed a faint flicker, just barely holding on. Had I not lingered so long in that body, I might not even recognize it as mine. The calendar beside the bed read, 1 month later. I called out tentatively for the system. No response. Silence. Just then, I heard footsteps approaching the room. I turned. It was Dennis. A whole month had passed. Not a single scar marked his face from the crash. He looked a little tired, that was all. He walked in, glanced at the body on the bed, and said flatly, still not dead. His subordinate followed behind him, nervously replying, Miss Sarah still has a heartbeat. The doctors say there's a chance she might wake up, but it's uncertain how long it'll take. Dennis didn't speak. He simply stared at me for a long time. His eyes were bloodshot, veins etched deep with red. Oh? She should have died long ago. Still hanging on like that, what is she even thinking? Just then, his phone rang. A sweet, chirpy voice came from the other end. It was Phoebe. Dennis, I made chicken soup for you tonight. I just learned the recipe from the housekeeper. I heard it's good for your health, but I think I messed up the flavor. I'm so clumsy. His expression instantly softened. It's okay. As long as you made it, I'll drink it. But next time, let the housekeeper handle things like this. I don't want you getting hurt. Ah. I just cut my finger while we were talking. It hurts so much. Boo-hoo. Dennis immediately looked alarmed. I'll be right back. He hung up without a second thought and left the hospital room without even a glance behind him. His subordinate let out a silent sigh. I watched Dennis leave. The pain in my chest was like a blade being driven through my heart. I turned to look at my own body lying on the bed. What was the point in holding on anymore? It hurt so much. It was time. I closed my eyes and floated toward the bed. Since I'd already separated from my physical body, the one lying there must be the original Sarah. Trapped in that ruined shell, clinging to life, she must be suffering. Let's end it. End all of it. I reached for the oxygen tube, gritting my soul into it. And pulled. The heart monitor suddenly spiked into a violent rhythm. Then, about 2 minutes later, a flat line. The subordinate, who had been quietly watching from the side, noticed something was wrong and shouted, President Brown. Something's wrong. Sister Sarah? Sister Sarah, she's dead. Frantic footsteps echoed from the hallway. Dennis, who had just left, returned to the room the next second. He stared at my body lying on the bed, his thoughts unreadable. Doctors rushed in, trying to will me into emergency treatment, but he stopped them. He just stood there in front of the bed, unmoving for a long, long time. Finally, the subordinate cautiously asked, "President Brown, what should we do now?" Dennis blinked like he'd just woken from a dream. The corners of his lips lifted into a sneer. "Burn her. Bury her. What else is there to do?" But as he said those words, I saw his hands, trembling. It was the 7th day since I'd lost contact with the system. I was still floating like a ghost in the air. Disconnected. Powerless. In all my years doing missions, I'd never experienced anything like this. I could only follow Dennis like a passive shadow. Watching my own body being sent into the crematorium. Watching my tombstone being placed. At my funeral, Dennis didn't even show up. He stayed in his villa. Didn't go to work. Didn't even clean himself up. Phoebe, dressed in loungewear, cautiously approached him. "Dennis, don't you want to get some sleep? It's been 3 days. I know you're really sad that Sister Sarah died, but there's nothing we can do anymore. Life has to go on, right?" Dennis didn't react. He sat as if he hadn't heard a thing. I floated beside them and let out 2 dry chuckles. Then casually grabbed 2 dates and popped them in my mouth. Trying so hard to look devastated by my death. Phoebe, seeing he wouldn't respond, pouted pitifully and leaned in close to whisper in his ear, "Will you stay with me tonight? It's so dark. I'm scared. They say souls return on the 7th night. Do you think Sarah's ghost will come back? I mean, she died pretty horribly. If she does return, she'll probably look really scary, don't you think?" "Boo-hoo. Scary? You're the scary one, you plastic little flower. Talking trash about the dead, aren't you afraid I'll sit on your chest tonight and haunt your dreams?" But before I could do anything, Dennis suddenly raised his head and, without warning, grabbed Phoebe by the throat. He slammed her down onto the couch. She shrieked in pain, clearly too shocked to react. Dennis's eyes were blood red, his voice ice cold. "She doesn't like people calling her ugly. Remember that. Don't let her hear you say it again. Or she'll slice up your face with a knife." "I'm not joking." Phoebe had clearly never seen this side of him before. She trembled, cheeks turning purple from lack of air. Just as she was about to lose consciousness, Dennis abruptly let go, as if he realized something. "I'm sorry. I lost control. You should get some rest." Phoebe wasn't exactly the brightest bulb in the box. She was the beloved heroine, used to being adored, never scolded, let alone manhandled. Furious, she jumped up and hurled a pillow at Dennis. "You laid hands on me, for a dead woman? Dennis, what is wrong with you? It's been half a month since we got married, and you still won't sleep with me. What am I to you?" Dennis kept his head down, silently pulling out a cigarette and lighting it. "She's not dead," he said flatly. "I'll say it again, she's not dead." Phoebe laughed in disbelief. "Oh, so Sarah's not dead? Looks like you're the one who's lost it. Didn't you hate her? Weren't you just playing along with her all that time? You didn't even attend her funeral, and now you're here wallowing in grief? What's wrong with you? She died because of herself, not because of me. She tried to drag you down with her, she sabotaged us over and over again. Don't tell me, you were actually touched by that psycho? Everything she ever did was dirty. She was nothing but a lowly, disgusting woman." Phoebe didn't notice the dark shadow that fell over Dennis's face. Smack. The crisp sound of a slap echoed through the room. Phoebe's cheeks swelled up instantly. She stared at Dennis in disbelief. "Honestly, I did too. What the hell was going on?" The next moment, Phoebe completely lost it, like a woman gone mad. "You hit me? You actually hit me? No one has ever dared lay a hand on me. Dennis, I want a divorce. I'm leaving. I'm going somewhere you'll never find me." Ah, the heroine, still sticking to the plot structure like clockwork. The classic "you chase, I escape" drama arc. I clicked my tongue and resumed snacking on my jujubes. But instead of chasing her, Dennis stood up. With his towering height, Phoebe looked even smaller, more fragile. He gave her a twisted smile. "Did you just call her a filthy woman? You think you're qualified to say that? Everything Sarah did, all the dirty work, she did for me. Because I told her to. If anyone's filthy, it's me. I'm no cleaner than she is." Phoebe gawked at him in shock. Tears filled her eyes as she turned and ran out barefoot. I half expected Dennis to rush out after her and sweep her into a dramatic bridal carry. Instead, he returned to the couch. Lit another cigarette. Then another. And another. He didn't stop until the ashtray overflowed. The housekeeper couldn't take it anymore and finally came out to ask, "Sir, Madam ran out barefoot. She scraped her foot and it's raining outside. Should we go find her?" Dennis just chuckled softly. Dennis tilted his head back and laughed until tears filled his eyes. "Will she die?" The housekeeper hesitated. Probably not. But she'll definitely catch a cold. If she's not going to die, then what's the fuss? Just a cold. The housekeeper didn't know how to respond. She simply nodded mechanically and repeated her previous words. Dennis gave a faint smile and collapsed onto the couch, his eyes blank and unfocused. I tilted my head, watching him silently. After a long pause, I let out a cold laugh. Ah. He's in love with me now. Mission complete. 1 month after I died. That's the funniest joke I've ever heard. Late affection is cheaper than dirt. His current state stirred no sympathy in me, only mockery. When I was alive, he treated me like I was nothing. All his affection was reserved for Phoebe. Now that I'm dead, suddenly he's putting on a show of grief? What, does he have some sort of necrophilia kink? He smoked the entire night. If I still had lungs, I'd probably be choking on secondhand smoke. Why doesn't he just get lung cancer and die? Is the male lead plot armor really that strong? When the sky began to lighten, Dennis finally stood up, swaying on his feet, and let out a bitter chuckle. Isn't there a saying about spirits returning on the 7th night? Sarah, you hated me so much, why didn't you come back to haunt me? Oh, I want to. If my system were still online, I'd kill you in a heartbeat. But sadly, who knows where the system went? Day 15 of being disconnected from the system. Dennis finally went to the office. He looked utterly exhausted, like he'd aged 10 years overnight. If the company weren't on the brink of bankruptcy, I doubt he'd have even left the villa. Phoebe, who had fought with him just a week ago, now stood proudly in the meeting room, radiant and composed. Beside her was a cheerful, good-looking man with a sunny smile. Phoebe held a folder in her hand. She stared at the disheveled Dennis and paused briefly, then said, Dennis, I've gathered evidence of all your illegal transactions behind the scenes. Most of your employees are now my informants. The moment I submit this report, your entire corporation will be investigated and dismantled. A triumphant smile played on her lips. The man beside her gazed at her with indulgence. Ah yes, I remember him now, he's the second male lead. Always secretly in love with Phoebe, always supporting her from the shadows. He was also Dennis's business rival and had schemed against me more than once. So this is what happened. After she broke things off with Dennis, Phoebe ran straight to her backup plan and acquired all this evidence. Dennis didn't even lift his head. And? What do you want? His calm tone made Phoebe instantly furious. I want you to apologize. Admit you were wrong. As long as you yield, I'll destroy this folder. Dennis looked up and let out a mocking laugh. That's it? Then go ahead and turn it in. If there's nothing else, I'll be leaving. Phoebe's eyes widened in shock. She shrieked, Dennis, are you deaf? If I submit this, you won't just go bankrupt, you'll be imprisoned. And I'll divorce you and get engaged to Noah. Ah, so the second male lead is called Noah. Of course he is, classic name. Dennis remained unmoved. Do whatever you want. Phoebe nearly fainted from rage, while Noah narrowed his eyes and fixed them on Dennis. Then he smirked. I always thought Dennis was some big shot. Turns out you built your empire off a woman's back. What now? That female enforcer of yours isn't around anymore? Oh, right. She's dead, isn't she? Dennis froze. But Noah wasn't done. He kept going. Phoebe said you've been like this ever since Sarah died. What a joke. You're acting all lovesick now? You loved Sarah? That's the funniest thing I've ever heard. It was 2 months ago, right? You remember that day? Sarah called you, said she wanted cake. That woman had a mouth like steel. My guys interrogated her for half a month and she refused to say a single bad word about you. My men are killers, Dennis. They locked her in a water dungeon for weeks. You know what kind of water? Industrial wastewater. Reeking, toxic. They whipped her until her skin tore apart, left her soaking in that pit. Her skin practically rotted off. I kind of admired her, actually. With just a breath left in her body, her dying wish was to call you, and say she wanted cake. Who would have thought such a fierce woman had such a soft side? What a pity. You didn't even let her finish the call before you hung up. Dennis's hands trembled. The next second, he lunged at Noah and slammed his fist into the man's face. Again and again, punch after punch, each one landing with sickening force. He was like a wild animal, roaring with fury. Shut up. Say one more word and I'll kill you. Noah spat out a mouthful of blood and sneered. Kill me? You think you can? You're nothing without Sarah. Just a worm who rode a woman's coattails. Unfortunately, he wasn't wrong. Within moments, Dennis was surrounded by Noah's men. He hadn't recovered from the past weeks of self-destruction and was quickly overpowered. Blows rained down on him like a storm. He bled all over the floor, worse than I'd ever seen him before. But he didn't make a sound. It was Phoebe who finally tugged at Noah's sleeve, a hint of mercy in her voice. Brother Noah, that's enough. He'll die if you keep going. I just wanted to vent. I'm satisfied now. Noah glanced at the delicate woman beside him, then pressed his shoe against Dennis's face and ground it in. Only for Phoebe's sake am I sparing your pathetic life. But don't let me catch you bothering her again. With that, the two of them left in a storm of arrogance. Dennis lay there, panting like a dog. His eyes were bloodshot, his face streaked with tears, and he kept muttering, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry." I floated over to his side. Looking at him now, I felt no satisfaction, only sorrow. So this is what it feels like, to hear your own suffering described by someone else. Is this karma? Was I forced to remain here in this ghostly form, just to watch him fall apart? But I no longer love him. Whatever punishment he suffers, it no longer touches me. He was just another mission target. Then why does my heart still ache? Noah wasn't done with his revenge. Dennis's entire company was reported and shut down. His assets were frozen. He became a murder suspect. And so? Dennis ran. Before escaping, he kidnapped both Noah and Phoebe. He dragged them to an abandoned factory and submerged them in the same industrial water tank I had once been tortured in, repeating every torment I had endured until they were both dead. Now he hides in a damp, moldy basement, chewing on stale bread. In his hand, he clutches a phone, dialing the same number over and over again. I looked down. It was my number. Now disconnected. Deactivated. Nothing but an empty line. He kept calling the number over and over again, each time murmuring, "Stop playing around. Come back, please? I'll give you everything. My life, my love, just come back to me." I sighed, unsure what I was feeling anymore. I didn't believe Dennis ever truly loved me. Back then, he took everything I gave for granted. He used me. Manipulated me. Now that I'm gone and he's lost everything, he suddenly starts longing for me? And that's supposed to be love? What a joke. But then I started to notice something strange. The entire plotline of this novel was starting to derail. Originally, after Dennis and Phoebe got married, time was supposed to stop in this world, freeze in that happy ending. But now, the second male lead, who should have become Dennis's close friend, had become his enemy. The female lead, who was supposed to become a blissful CEO's wife, had run off into another man's arms. And our male lead? He was now a wanted fugitive. This world was falling apart. Where on earth was my system? As my thoughts drifted, I saw Dennis suddenly curl up on the ground, a few crumbs of bread still at the corner of his lips. He looked like a walking skeleton, gaunt, hollow-eyed, utterly broken. Clutching his stomach in pain, he writhed in agony, his breathing growing fainter by the second. I crouched down to check on him. But in the next moment, Dennis's closed eyes flew open, and he lunged at me. His hand swiping through the air as if trying to grab me. But how could he? I was a ghost. I calmed down quickly, but Dennis, he smiled. "Sarah, you came back. I knew it. You couldn't bear to watch me die." I wanted to laugh, but I couldn't even summon a smile. I could only say, with calm detachment, "You're dying, Dennis. Only those on the verge of death can perceive my presence." Dennis stared at me, his eyes weak. "If I die, does that mean I'll be able to see you forever?" I shook my head. "No. Once you die, this world will reset, and Sarah will no longer exist." I didn't expect him to understand. This was just a fictional world. Without my interference, once the protagonist died, the world would reshuffle and start anew. Dennis would have no memory of anything. He would chase after Phoebe all over again. Compete with Noah for her love. Only, there would be no more Sarah. No one left who gave everything for him. But somehow, Dennis seemed to understand. "How can I atone for what I've done?" "I don't need your redemption, Dennis. You were never worth my heart." His outstretched hand dropped limply to the ground. He covered his face and wept, his voice trembling. "I was wrong. I really was. It was you I loved all along, always you. But I couldn't control myself. Let me make it right. Give me that chance, please." I exhaled and turned away. Because behind me, I finally heard it. Ding. System bug repaired. Mission complete. Please return to the main system to claim your reward. I turned around. A beam of light cut through the darkness of the basement. Within it, a silhouette appeared. He stood right behind me, watching, who knows for how long. "You've completed the strategy mission. Congratulations." That face? That familiar face? I froze. All around me were blue and black digital panels. I stood rooted in place, stunned, staring at two Denises. I couldn't process what I was seeing. What was going on? The one in front of me looked healthy. His handsome face showed no sign of illness, though his eyes seemed older, burdened. He wore the standard uniform of a system agent. And then he smiled faintly. "Sarah, I am your system." Dennis was my system? I stood there in shock as a flood of memories surged into my mind. And in that moment, everything became clear. I wasn't some outsider, strategy executor. I was Sarah. Sarah was me. I wasn't a player. I was a character in a novel. A pitiful second female lead who loved and lost, and ultimately died tragically. Because I couldn't accept that ending, the system found me and gave me a mission: become a strategist, complete 99 strategy tasks, and I could return to my original story world, to earn one chance to rewrite my fate. But the price was that all my memories would be erased, until the very end. And this final mission had always been my own life. I had lived it again and again. Loved and died in agony, again and again. But then, why had Dennis become the system? I wanted to speak, but his body was already fading. He walked over to the Dennis still collapsed on the floor and looked back at me, his face pale. Go claim your reward, Sarah. Goodbye. I stood there, frozen. The world around me began to collapse inward. The two Denises began to merge into one. I think I understood then. But I couldn't stop it. All I could do was watch silently. Goodbye. And never again? Dennis. Epilogue, Dennis's POV. I realized I was the male lead in a novel. It hit me the day a woman in my life died. Her name was Sarah. The first time I met her, I was badly injured, leaning against a dumpster, smoking cheap cigarettes. The harsh smoke was the only thing dulling the pain in my body. Then she burst into a corner store like a storm, arguing with a local thug over the last pack of smokes. She couldn't have been more than 16 or 17, with a high ponytail and a cocky, mischievous grin. Even though she was a girl, she acted tougher than any of those gangsters. Without hesitation, she threw punches. So thin, so small, yet she fought like she had the strength of 100 men. The thugs didn't manage to land a single hit on her, but she didn't come out unscathed either. Just before the police arrived, she ran out of the shop in a hurry. I stopped her. Saw the blood on her forehead. I handed her a cigarette. She raised an eyebrow at me, her gaze sharp like a little wolf pup. For me? I don't smoke. That's for my old man. Oh. I tried to take the cigarette back, but she snatched it and sat down next to me. My dad's a nicotine addict. Sends me out for smokes every day. Only smokes this brand. If I come home empty-handed, I get beaten half to death. Before I could say anything, she kept going. You think I can fight 3 guys at once 'cause I'm born strong? Nah. It's all training, thanks to dear old dad. If those bastards hadn't run off, I'd have broken at least one of their legs. She lit the cigarette as she spoke. The cheap smoke made her cough uncontrollably. She was trembling. Tears welled in her eyes. She was lying. But I didn't call her out on it. The second time we met. She was still running. She looked even more miserable than the last time we met. Shivering, she clutched my sleeve and asked if she could stay for the night. I glanced at the bruises covering her body and couldn't help but ask, did you fail to buy the cigarettes again? Got beaten up by your dear dad? She nodded, then shook her head, grimacing with a crooked smile. I'm not sure what came over me. Maybe it was the kinship between two people abandoned by the world, huddling together for warmth. She left the next morning. I didn't ask where she was going, nor did I ask for her number. I simply bought a barrel of gasoline, sat outside an old condemned building, and lit a cigarette. The third time I saw her, I was in the middle of a fight with a gang of thugs. My boss had hired me to smash up someone's turf. Everyone else had run. I was being beaten to a pulp, utterly powerless. I thought to myself, fine. Let me die. This worthless life of mine should have ended long ago. But Sarah appeared. Like a war goddess, she shielded me with her frail body, swinging an iron rod wildly at the thugs, like she didn't care whether she lived or died. Her crazed strikes scared them off. They cursed us and fled. I held her fragile body, covered in blood. She managed a weak smile and reached out to touch my face. Damn. I really like your face. So clean. Promise me, if you ever get into another fight, don't mess up your face, or I'll go crazy. Are you insane? I asked. We're not even related. Why would you help me? She blinked at me, her voice faint. I owed you, Dennis. I'm finally free. That cigarette addict father of mine died, burned alive in our house. He clung to that crumbling building for years, hoping to cash in, but in the end, he trapped himself in his own web. I said nothing. I just held her tighter. Congratulations, I whispered. From that day forward, Sarah followed me. I knew she liked me. But how could someone like me ever be worthy of her affection? If she knew I was the one who set that house on fire, if she knew I'd been watching her long before, obsessed with that stubborn spirit of hers, would she still like me? I was never as clean as she imagined. After all, a man who crawled up from the dark and filthy gutters could never become her so-called clean and pure boy. We clawed our way from street rats to rising power. I went from penniless to rolling in cash. I thought, as long as I climbed high enough, Sarah would suffer less. I thought she would always stay by my side, even in hell. Then I met Phoebe. A strange woman. From the moment I laid eyes on her, I couldn't look away. It felt like destiny. Even though I hated her touch, I couldn't stop myself from getting closer and closer to her. I saw the disappointment in Sarah's eyes. She drifted further away from me. We saw each other less and less, while Phoebe and I grew inseparable. It was as if some invisible force was pushing us together. Until the day I married Phoebe, Sarah reappeared. She congratulated me, saying I had finally found happiness. But someone I'd wronged came for revenge. I shielded Phoebe. Took several bullets to the body. Just as the final shot aimed straight at my forehead, Sarah, just like all those times before, stepped in to shield me. Dramatically. Recklessly. Like it was her destiny. As she lay dying, she asked me, "Have you ever loved me? Even just once?" I heard my own voice, cold and heartless, "I've never loved you. I like pure women, not someone like you, covered in blood." She died. And with her death, that strange restraint inside me shattered. I wandered through life like a ghost, no hope of ever waking up again. Until I heard the cold voice of the system in my ear, "If you had the chance to start over, to bring Sarah back, would you take it?" I grabbed onto hope like a drowning man. What do I need to do? Bind with the system. Become part of it. You will be eternally tied to this world, forced to repeat it again and again, watching Sarah die over and over, until the day you finally say you love her. I agreed. Even if it meant a deal with the devil. And I was right. It was exactly that. My memories were wiped over and over. I watched her die in my arms, again and again, until the pain of losing her broke me. Only then did I truly awaken. Only then did I finally wait long enough for her return. And this time, I was her system. Her guide. I watched everything she did for me, yet I couldn't do a single thing to change it. Eventually, I realized the system wasn't torturing me. It was torturing her. So this time, I broke the rules. I forcefully terminated the mission and set her free. I rewrote the storyline of this world. Everyone who wronged her, paid the price. Including me. Even if it meant the destruction of this world. Even if I vanished forever. At least I saw her one last time. I wanted so badly to hold her. But she looked at me with cold indifference, and my heart ached. So this is what it feels like, to be ignored by someone you love. So this is how she's always felt by my side. Time collapsed in on itself. I watched her walk away. But it was okay, she was alive. And my mission was complete. Extra, Sarah's perspective. After I completed the final strategy mission, the novel world of Dennis and Phoebe began to collapse. The system gave me two options for my reward. 1. Be placed into a new random novel world, where I'd have loving parents, friends, a partner, and live a happy life. 2. Return to my original world, with all my memories intact, and rewrite my fate. I chose without hesitation. I choose option 1. I was tired. I didn't want to go through it all again. Let it end. I arrived in a new world. My parents were alive, simple, kind-hearted people. I grew up in a happy family. I had a wonderful best friend. A childhood sweetheart who cared for me deeply. There were always gentle smiles on their faces. My past memories began to fade, like mist in my mind. Until one day after school, my best friend and I left a convenience store and saw a bloody boy beside a trash can. He didn't look that old. Dirty and bruised, but his face, still clean. He smoked with practiced ease, eyes staring blankly into the distance. My friend tugged on my arm. "Hey, is that a delinquent? He looks so young, skipping school. Poor thing." I glanced at the boy and narrowed my eyes. Then I pulled her along. "Let's go. Don't get involved with people like that. Once they stick to you, you'll never shake them off." We walked past the boy. I thought I heard him laugh. But I didn't turn back. The summer afternoon sun shone brilliantly. My childhood friend was waiting at the corner with popsicles in hand. He waved, smiling as we approached. "Hurry up, you two. The ice cream's melting. Have you decided your college majors yet?" The three of us laughed and chatted all the way home. And just like that, the last of the fog in my heart finally lifted. I walked past him without looking back, sunlight warming my skin, my friends laughing by my side. Maybe in another life, I would have stayed. But in this one, I chose peace. And for once, I didn't look for love. I chose myself.